This presentation is called Yoga Nidra, the Five Yamas, and Dorm Dorhu. Yoga Nidra is a yoga practice to be done at night to help you sleep is most common. Nidra means night. The five yamas are five rules of behavior in yoga, such as nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing. What is Dorm Dorhu? Dorm Dorhu is actually a Pleiadian yoga practice involving crystals. You probably didn't know that the people in the Pleiades practice yoga, but you'll find that out, and we'll find that these three different practices are actually very similar, virtually the same thing. Yoga Nidra, the five yamas, and Dorm Dorhu. So acknowledgements. Firstly, I'd like to thank Jenhan Aredyan, who is a Pleiadian scientist who explained the Dorm Dorhu practice to Elena Denan and Dan Willis, who then shared the information with the rest of us. Elena Denan is an archaeologist, author, and ET contactee. Dan Willis was a U.S. Navy communications engineer who also worked with Dr. Marcel Vogel, a scientist at IBM, who later studied crystals and their healing properties. The five yamas come from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, so we thank Maharishi Patanjali, who's the founder of yoga and author of the Yoga Sutras, and we thank Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the founder of Transcendental Meditation and Maharishi International University, who's a renowned scholar. He brought out a deeper understanding of the five yamas and of all eight of the limbs of yoga, and actually of the entire Vedic knowledge. Alana Greer, who is my yoga teacher and is a health coach, played a key role in assisting me to organize and structure this presentation. So I'd like to thank her too. And their backgrounds will be explained in more detail in later slides. And for more information on Elena Denan, this is her website. marcelvogel.org is the website of Dan Willis. We've got the TM and MIU websites, and there's the book, The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. The last person I would like to thank is Dorothy Rowe, who's widely known as a healer. I am actually lost for words to describe Dorothy because she is so knowledgeable in so many areas. I chose the words spiritual polymath. This PowerPoint is the latest in many PowerPoints in which I attempted to integrate my understanding, and Dorothy has given me key feedback and guidance through all of them. Thank you, Dorothy. And Dorothy's website is at the bottom, distanceenergywork.com. So now we're going to look at the Yoga Nidra, which is a yoga practice which has 5 stages, sitting or lying down. It can be done. Before we start is first close your eyes. And then step 1, so there's 5 stages. The first stage is surrender to unconditional love, or just feel unconditional love for everyone and everything. And there is a visualization optional that goes along with this if we like. So in the first step, and when we're surrendering to unconditional love, the visualization, we can be a tree or a flower. We're in nature. The second stage is within that love. So we've surrendered to unconditional love. Within that love, be aware of your body. And when we're aware of our body, that brings us into the here and now, and we're grounded. So for a tree, it's just feeling our roots growing into the ground. So we're feeling grounded, we're feeling our roots growing deep into the ground, and we're in the here and now, we're in the present. Then in the third stage, within that love, that unconditional love for everyone and everything, we let our awareness expand to encompass the entire universe. So in step 2, we're aware of our body. So we let our body expand to the entire universe rather than just be situated in our body. So aware of the entire universe. And For a tree, we feel our branches going up to the sky and beyond. So we're not only grounded in the earth at step two, we're encompassing with our branches the sky and beyond. So that's step three. Then step four is within that love, let our awareness alternate between the body and the universe, between steps two and three. So this will just naturally happen. We'll feel ourselves as our body, feel ourselves as the universe, and our awareness will be jumping back and forth between those two stages. And this is and notice any resultant wholeness. So we don't force this at step four, it just happens automatically that we'll notice that and just be aware if it's happening. If it doesn't happen, maybe it'll happen at some later time when you do this practice. If you do it every day, maybe a week later, you'll just notice your body naturally or your awareness naturally alternates back and forth. And if we're a tree, we feel the nutrients and energy and love flowing up and down. And so we're like encompassing the full range from our roots to the sky. And at step five, just be a witness to the process. And this again happens automatically. We just find after we do this process for a few days or a few weeks, many times we just find we're able to witness this process. At some point, we're just there and aware of the process happening. We're sitting in that love. We've got the awareness of our body, awareness of the universe, and it's naturally going back and forth between them both. And we're just aware of that process naturally happening. Over time, this just gets hardwired into our physiology, and we just surrender to the process, let Mother Nature manage and trust. So that's the whole process. And it's just a simple process. We can do that when we're going to bed. And once you've done it a few times, it just happens automatically. The more you do it, the more it'll become a part of you. I do this process naturally when I lie down in bed, but even when I'm sitting, getting ready to eat a meal, I may close my eyes and say grace, and I notice my attention is naturally alternating between my body and the universe. It's a natural process. The more you do it, the more it'll start occurring. And I also wanted to thank Mark Lamore, a healer in Canada, for reminding me of the tree visualization. This yoga nidra practice was derived, or it came from the five yamas. So now we're going to look at the five yamas in the next slide. Yama is the first of the 8 limbs of yoga and has 5 parts. We'll see how this 5-stage yoga nidra correlates with the 5 yamas, which are 5 rules of behavior. So now we're at the next slide, correspondence of yoga nidra with the 5 yamas. So again, preparation is close your eyes. The first stage, surrender to unconditional love, corresponds with ahimsa or nonviolence, because the state of unconditional love fulfills ahimsa or nonviolence. People on the superficial level may think of ahimsa as like not stepping on an ant or something, and that is a superficial value of nonviolence. But if we were in the state of unconditional love, then automatically, naturally, we wouldn't have exhibiting violence towards anyone or anything. So unconditional love corresponds with ahimsa. Then the second stage was within that love, be aware of your body, be grounded in the here and now. And that corresponds with the 5 yamas. The second yama is satya, the state of truth, sat. So people often translate satya as just being truthful, not telling any lies. But the deeper value of sat is being in the state of truthfulness, being in the state of here and now, being grounded. So we're aware of our body when we're in the state of now, of here and now. That's the state of sat, because all that truly exists is the here and now. That's the state of truth, of truthfulness. Then the third stage of yoga nidra was within that love, let your awareness expand to encompass the entire universe. And Maharshi explained, and this is really fascinating, how asteya, which is the third of the five yamas, is normally translated as non-stealing. But the highest value of non-stealing is in unity consciousness, where one is everything and there's nothing to steal. So when in the state of unity, when one is anything and there's nothing to steal, then asteya is satisfied. So when we let our awareness expand to be the entire universe, then we fulfilled asteya, non-stealing. Then the fourth of the five yoga nitras is let our awareness alternate between the body and the universe, which was steps 2 and 3. Notice any wholeness. And for the five yamas, brahmacharya, which corresponds. And what does brahmacharya mean? Well, if we translated, Brahma is wholeness and charya means seated or established, so established in wholeness. Brahmacharya is more commonly, considered to be celibacy, being in the state where energy is going up. That's like a superficial understanding. We want to be in the state of energy going up. We're in that state of Brahman, of wholeness. And that happens automatically. And you'll feel that happen when you go through this practice. You'll naturally feel that state of wholeness developing over time through this practice, rather than just being some mood making, trying to in your daily behavior. So be patient. Let's do step 5. Step 5 is be a witness to the process, to any flow of energy and love between everyone and everything. So we surrender and trust. And parigraha is the fifth of the five yamas. It is translated as non-possession, which is when you're a witness to everything. That is the state of non-possession, because you don't have any possessions, because you're a witness to them all. So Maharshi explained this too, that a parigraha is only superficially thought of as like giving all your possessions away, but that's not really the full value. The full value is in being in that state of witnessing, where one isn't attached to anything naturally, because one is separate from everything, from the relative creation. So now we've looked at Yoga Nidra, and then we looked at the five Yama, and we showed how they correlate with each other. Now we're going to look at the third of those things that were corresponding with each other, which is Dorm Dorhu, which is a Pleiadian yoga practice. And the source for this practice comes from Dan Willis. He's got a website, he's got videos, which give details. So I'm going to go through this in detail. So the implements right now. So here is a person sitting on a chair. There's 2 crystals. His left hand is on top of one crystal, which is pointed up. His right hand is holding another crystal, which is pointed to his heart. And here we've got the energy flowing up the spine and then back down in all directions. So this is like a torus field. So this is the Pleiadian yoga practice, and we'll go into more detail in the next slides, step by step. But this is just the first to give you an overview. There's like 5 steps to this Pleiadian yoga practice, and it corresponds to the same 5 steps that we just did. And you have to use special crystals. Vogel crystals were invented by Marcel Vogel, and they need to be cut exactly a certain way. A more advanced version of those are Vogel Iridian crystals, and we can discuss that later. But these crystals are cut in such a way that they're much more effective at bringing the energy. So we've got the energy flowing from crystal to the hand and around. We'll go through that in a minute. Note the toroidal flow of energy, which is frill, is the name that the Pleiadians give. We can call it chi. or prana, it flows up the spine and back down in all directions. And that has a very beneficial effect on the physiology. And we'll go through all those benefits. And there's components that are recommended for this practice. First, 1 to 2 Vogel iridian crystals. And there is, one company in the United States that cuts them according to these specifications. Um, I don't have any financial interest in this company, and neither does Dan Willis, but it's called Crystal Light and Sound, Becky and Russell Forsyth. And Dan has the links at his website. But anyhow, you need 2 Vogel iridian. You can use any quartz crystals, in fact, any pieces of quartz, but the most effective will be the Vogel iridian crystals. You also need a pulse generator, which is attached to this crystal below the left hand, and we'll show you that. And that's to stimulate the crystal to release frill, which will then travel through your body. And just one warning is not to soak quartz crystals in salt water, because that's as if putting an electric radio in salt water. It short circuits the radio. So a quartz crystal has, electromagnetic qualities, that has energy. And if you put it in salt water, it short circuits the crystal. So you don't want to do that. The idea that soaking these crystals in salt water cleanses them of bad energy is, Marcel Vogel, Dan Wells explained that that's a misunderstanding, like an old wives' tale that didn't really work. If you want to clear the crystal, you need something that generates a sound at 496 cycles per second, and that's a natural rhythm of the quartz crystal, and that'll clear it of all negative effects. And you can use your cell phone with certain apps that do that, and you can also get a device that does that. But let's go into more details in the next slides. So here's the correspondence with Dorm Dorhu. And again, Dan Willis's website, marcelvogel.org, contains much more details. So the first step, which was feel unconditional love in this Dorm Dorhu practices, is pretty well the same thing, but they quantify it as being in a gamma brainwave state. And you can do that by doing yoga nidra first, doing transcendental meditation. Dan Willis sometimes uses binaural beats. Maybe you've got your own method of visualization to get in that state of unconditional love. So once you're in that state of unconditional love and you have your device turned on, meaning you've got one crystal below your left hand, and this crystal has a 20 hertz signal generator, which means like a pulse generator that's pulsing on the crystal. And I'll show you that in a minute to open the crystal up. And then there'll be energy traveling up that crystal into your left hand. Then it goes into your left palm, then down your left arm, then through your chest, out your right arm, up to the right palm, into a crystal, the right crystal, which then goes to the heart, and from the heart connects back down to earth. So let's go through that here. Propelled by pulse breath, feel the frill rise up from the earth, up the left crystal, into the left palm, down the left arm, through the chest and heart, then down the right arm to the right palm, right crystal. From the right crystal, it goes into the heart. And we'll go through this again later. And from the heart, it grounds down to the earth, or to source. So you'll feel that if you have a proper Vogel iridian crystal and you're doing this, you'll feel this energy flow. And it's like, or I do, over time you will. And it's like wonderful. So that's step 2. So this is the grounding step. This practice, compared to the previous one, the 5 yamas, it's just as much it's a more advanced practice, which you can feel much more effect from. And I'll just show you. Here is a picture of me. So here's the crystal in my left hand. I've got it supported on a box, which you can't see because it's white. And then my palm is on top of the crystal. So the crystal releases energy frill that goes up into my left hand, and then goes down my left arm, I should say, through my heart. Then it comes over into my right arm to my right hand. And from my right palm, I'm sort of touching the crystal. Then that frill then is project up into my heart. So right hand holding crystal, which is pointed at the heart, which goes into the heart. So that's all step 2. Let's see. Then at step 3, we allow, once that step 2 has occurred, we'll naturally find over time, we'll be aware of frill rising up from the earth, up the spine, and circling back down in all directions in a torus geometry. So we naturally feed the flow of thrill with our breath, with our pulse breath, and also with this signal generator, which is activating this crystal below our left hand. And I think I've got a picture of that coming up. Then step 4, within that love, allow your attention to naturally move back between steps 2 and 3, the 2 energy flows. So one is the energy flow from the left crystal through the left hand and arm to the heart, to the right arm, to the crystal, to the heart, and back down. Then the second energy flow is the flow, that first flow connects the earth, and then from the earth, the second flow is up the spine and then around in all directions. Notice any resultant wholeness. Step 5 is be a witness to the process. Just surrender and trust, which is the same. Now we're going to show you this device. So here is the crystal that was below my left hand, and it's connected to a pulse generator. This is you can get a less expensive pulse generator than this, only costs like $17. And it connects to either sides of the crystal across this area, which is the vortex. And this goes at 20 cycles a second, and that activates the vortex, which creates a flow of prana or frill up the crystal, which then goes into your left hand and then, goes down your left arm, through your heart and chest, out your right arm, and to the other crystal. So here is a picture of the crystal with these you can do this physically, the piezoelectric effect, applying pressure, but if you have this electrical signal on either side, it makes it much simpler. And you can also get a stand for the crystal. It can be, you can get this printed from a 3D printer, and Dan has a link to that file that you can take to a 3D printer and print this stand for the crystal. So this is the crystal that's below the left hand. And you can also get a crystal clearing device, which pulses at 4,096 cycles per second. And you use that for clearing the crystal every time before you do this practice. So now we'll go to the next slide. So that was all the complicated stuff. You might want to hear it again, and it's a very profound practice. And I'll just read a little bit of my notes. The crystal under the left hand is activated by an electrical signal at 20 cycles per second, which sends a pulse of frill upwards in the crystal, out the emitting end of the crystal into the left palm, around the body, and into the right palm, into the second crystal, which shoots the heart, and the heart grounds from the heart, the frill or energy flow grounds down to the earth. And the details for assembling this device can be found at Dan Wells's website, which was marcelvogel.org. including where to get the device for clearing the crystal, which you can also, or you can also use a cell phone for doing that by getting an app that pulses at 4,096 cycles per second. Okay, next slide. So what are the benefits of this Dorm Dorhu practice? According to Jen Hanaridian, this practice will strengthen, clean, mend, and balance the energy field of the body by repeatedly connecting the body's field with the morphogenic field of the universe. Consequently, the broken hydrogen links between the chromosomes elements are reconnected, or intra-elements they're reconnected with each other and with the morphogenic field of the universe. And once the blocks that keep the DNA strands disconnected from the morphogenetic field of the universe are unlocked, the DNA is transmuted into a stable state of autoregeneration, and consequently, health improves, physical deterioration is reversed, and lifespan is extended. And again, that comes from Dan Willis. I'm going to skip this slide. I'll just read the first sentence. Fill from the source is the most powerful energy you can ever imagine to harness. You can watch this video later and read this in detail. How a Bogle Iridian crystal transforms etheric energy into physical reality. You can read this again, but there's the thicker end of the crystal and the thinner end of the crystal. The thicker end of the crystal connects with etheric energy, and then the thinner end of the crystal takes that energy and connects with physical reality, and that's where the prana comes out. And there's the vortex in the middle, the eye. I'm near the end of this presentation. Just wanted to show you a picture. Here's a picture of Jan Hanaridian, the Pleiadian scientist from planet Era. He's currently working on a project terraforming on Mars, which means turning the environment into Mars into a more friendly environment for people to live. Here's a picture of Jen Hanaridian's older brother, Thor Hanaridian. He's a high command officer aboard the XL6 battle station, or Excelsior battle station of the Galactic Federation of Worlds. It actually is, I believe, in orbit of Earth. And what is it doing there? It's benefiting us. The Galactic Federation of Worlds protects the Earth from harmful aliens. It rescues abductees. For instance, Elena Denon at age 9 was rescued when she was abducted by Greys, and Thor Hanaridian, was on that team that rescued Elena. And it also supports Earth's liberation in accordance with the Prime Directive, which means they can't interfere with the natural evolution of the Earth. So then here's a picture of Shaya Aridian, who is Thor Han and Jen Han's elder sister, and she's a temple generator attendant on planet Era, their home planet. And she's approximately 160 years old, but she doesn't show her age. So the pyramidal power on Arrow with a tall natural crystal in the center, we can't see that here. The frill is harvested or collected at the top of the pyramid and teleported to secondary generators, which transpond the frill to be used in the cities and other cities, the power web of the cities. So that's just to let you know that this is real. And the sources for that is Elena Denon's website and also Dan Willis. Only a few more slides left. This is a picture of Elena Denon, who's a best-selling author, archaeologist, international speaker, extraterrestrial contactee, and traveler. She travels physically, emphasize, not through dreams, visions, channeling. She doesn't recommend any of those things. Channeling can be dangerous. So she does physical channeling. She also communicates through a advanced communication device. And her website is elenadenung.org. She also has a YouTube channel. This is a picture of her explaining one type of propulsion system used in extraterrestrial spacecraft. There are a lot of phony organizations and individuals around who is aiming to confuse and mislead people from the truth. Elena has an academic background, and all her information is well corroborated from historical facts and other evidence. And her most recent book is called Koldas, Koldas, Beyond Neptune, and it's a mind-blowing and amazing book. And just a couple more slides left. This is a picture of Dan Willis, former U.S. Navy communications engineer, international speaker, whistleblower, crystal scientist who's a student of Marcel Vogel. His website is marcelvogel.org. Dan has shared the plans for making the Dorm Dorhu device and has been wonderful in answering all my questions and guiding me through this. So he's really wonderful and he's been very helpful. And his website contains a huge amount of well-corroborated information about disclosure, as well as about all these different devices and the history of Earth and a lot more. And here's a picture of Marcel Vogel. He was a senior research scientist for IBM. He received over 100 patents for his inventions, including the magnetic coating for IBM disk drives, still used today. And he developed the first liquid crystal displays. In the 70s, he did pioneering research on man-plant communication, which led him to the study of quartz crystals, faceted Vogel crystals, and their applications for healing. He also studied structured water. And I'm not going to go into this, but frill can also be used to power spaceships, and Elena was explaining that in the picture. And the next slide. So here's one more additional medical technology that'll become available with our friends. Med beds based on fractal holographic technology. And you can read this later in more detail or see Dan Willis's videos, but I'll just read the first sentence. The fractal core formula of the tissue to repair is recorded, and then the perfectly unaltered geometrical pattern is reconstructed and superimposed on the damaged pattern. The old pattern instinctively pairs and morphs into the new one because the universe tends to perfection. So is there more than these material technologies? So beyond physical technology, can we expect more than physical technology from our extraterrestrial neighbors? Our universe is full of spiritual beings who are intent on harmony, peace, spiritual development, and helping others on this path. We are all fragments or fractals of one source creator. Our star brothers and sisters have been patiently waiting to meet us. The potential of the humans of Earth is beyond our wildest dreams, interstellar, intergalactic, interdimensional, and transtemporal. And all this is described in detail in this book by Elena Denon, Koldas.